Back to politics, the visit by ICC Chief Prosecutor Fatou Bensouda has reignited debate over the possibility of having Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta and Eldoret North Member of Parliament William Ruto on the ballot in next year's elections. However, the last 1 week, the debate has shifted drastically from being just about them running in the election, but about them running together on one ticket as president and running mate. Coming just 2 weeks after the statement by Chief Mediator Kofi Annan on the implications of electing the two to the top office of the land, a totally different perspective has arisen about the so-called pre-election pact between Uhuru and Ruto. The Uhuru-Ruto ticket is our focus on Monday night's political segment, Succession 2013.
Kofi Annan's recent visit to Kenya has rattled the political nest forming around the Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta and URP presidential aspirant William Ruto. It is Annan's line on suitability of the two for the top job that is stoking embers of fury in a highly charged presidential contest.
There are implications which everyone needs to ponder, particularly when you're dealing with leadership of a country, leadership within the country, and leadership that also involves relations with other countries outside and beyond Africa.
Annan seems to be reading from the same script as the US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, whose visit to the country a few months back sent a message carrying heavy political symbolism of Western powers' interest in the country.
These guys are telling us, hey, you elect these suspects, we'll have a problem with you. But they've also instructed their diplomats locally that you will not engage with these people. So if any one of them gets even this close to becoming president, I'm seeing a relationship with the West going bust.
Sijawahi kusikia jirani moja akisimama akisema ya kwamba Uhuru Kenyatta akichaguliwa hatutafanya kazi na yeye. Mmesikia jirani wetu akisema hivyo? Haya basi tuendelee, namba 2 nimeweza. Sijawahi kusikia Mwafrika isipokuwa wale watalii walikuwa hapa. Sijawahi kusikia viongozi wengine wakisema Uhuru Kenyatta akichaguliwa hawatafanya kazi na yeye. Mmesikia nyinyi? Basi kama hao wengine hawataki kufanya kazi na sisi wakae, hata mimi sina haja na hao.
Deputy Prime Minister Uhuru Kenyatta was spitting political venom at the Chief Mediator Kofi Annan's remarks, which he claims are patronizing to the Kenyan people. The Uhuru and Eldoret North MP William Ruto axis illuminating their contempt for what they perceive as the Western powers meddling in Kenya's political affairs.
When Uhuru Kenyatta was growing up as a little boy, I believe the wazir around him convinced him that his father is the one who invented the presidency. So for him then, the presidency became like a toy, this kind of toy that you play around with. After all, it is my father who invented this presidency thing that is a toy for me to play around with. He also knows that unless he does this one, unless he hides in the presidency, he will be cooked.
At the precise moment that ICC prosecutor Fatou Bensouda arrived in Kenya, Uhuru, Ruto and their troops have swung into overdrive in the defense of the right of the two men to run in the next general election despite their ICC cases. Uhuru even flew down south to get the assurance of the Tanzanian president, Jakaya Kikwete, that he has his backing.
One very curious thing is that when Kofi Annan came into town, he had a long meeting with the CJ. If the judiciary is being talked to give us a solution by the internationals, then they are being asked to speed up the process. So that's something we need to watch. If this process is rushed, then we will know as they're rushing it, the possibilities are that they will stop this together. And if that happens, then we will be thrown into some kind of a political situation that we can't handle.
TNA has smelled blood and it's going for it. It's not going to surrender for anybody.
In utter defiance, Uhuru has threatened to sever diplomatic ties with the Western powers on account of manipulation and the country's apparent over-reliance on the West to fix Kenya's problems. To the DPM, the nation's sovereignty is ridiculed by the relentless foreign interference. But analysts say while Uhuru risks upsetting ties with the West, he is ready to court the East.
The issue of cutting diplomatic relations, it doesn't matter. He says if the West says, tells us that they will impose sanctions, let them do it. We'll go to China.
Uhuru and Ruto, the apparent principals of the G7 alliance, faced by a common denominator of the ICC trials, are crafting a union of purpose to sail through the murky waters beneath them to State House. An apparent camouflage of the cases on their heads. And as such, other members of the alliance appear to have been shoved to the periphery of the power negotiations.
Justice can only happen if he complicates matters for ICC. And he can do that by hiding within the presidency. And then we can have the al-Bashir kind of situation where he's telling them, I am president, come and get me. And even here locally, to try and prosecute a president that has already assumed office becomes completely complicated.
A crowded field the G7 alliance is, with Uhuru Kenyatta and Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka taking a second shot at the presidency, while Ruto and Justice Minister Eugene Wamalwa on their maiden presidential push. But therein lies the Tower of Babel of who will lead the pack and who will play second fiddle, or is it in essence a fallacy of a united front?
The ambitions of certain presidential candidates is so strong that they have to see themselves on the ballot paper.
G7 was the pigment of the imagination and the illusions of a few politicians who like to be cheated, like Kalonzo Musyoka and Eugene Wamalwa. They like to be cheated that it will happen. There never was a G7. Originally, what we had was G2. William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta.
But the million-dollar question remains, will the Uhuru-Ruto newfound political ties propel the duo to the house on the hill?
The possibilities of Uhuru and Ruto coming together for this election are nil, in my view. That would be labeled the fellowship of suspects. That two suspects have finally decided to form a fellowship and to run for president. It will not fly.
While political deal cutting and haggling takes shape, it appears Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka is contended with the position of a compromise candidate if Uhuru-Ruto candidature is rejected by the Kenyan courts, or if they are claimed by their ICC cases.
Kalonzo believes in miracles. And so when everybody is busy making alliances, he's busy praying that a miracle will happen. But in politics, miracles don't happen. Miracles are made to happen. Except in this one instance, the gods could favor Kalonzo. You never know. Maybe his prayers for the last 5 years, well, since he told us he'll do the kati-kati thing, maybe God has said, give it to this guy.
Constant pressure from the West for Uhuru and Ruto to shelve their ambitions is balanced by the fanatical following for the duo, which has made it almost ridiculous for them to imagine dropping their ambitions.
The two-race dilemma, that Uhuru Kenyatta is a horse without brakes. He is going full throttle. And that this guy called Raila is a horse without reverse gear. Him, he cannot reverse, because he reverses, goes political oblivion.
Whether they will pawn their candidacy or go full throttle, Uhuru and Ruto euphoria has gripped the country and may likely influence the country's balance of scales politically. Sam Ogina, KTN Succession 2013.
African states, including South Africa, including Nigeria, and voted for these cases to be referred to the ICC. So I think that this perception, that is being peddled around, that is being bandied about, that ICC is targeting Africa, I think it's wrong. It is Africa that's coming towards ICC, that's engaging ICC. And as long as the crimes are committed, as long as the victims need us here, we will be here.